Hey guys, my name is Nick Siverich. I'm a physical therapist, and today I want to go over this week's question of the week. This week's question of the week is about the lower extremities and if tight hamstrings or tight hip flexors can contribute to your low back pain. I see a lot of people with low back pain. I mean, that's probably one of the number one treatments, the number one diagnosis, I should say, that I treat is low back pain. And there's many different reasons why people get it, why people have it, injuries being one of them. Also just, getting old and, degeneration and things like that. But tightness in certain muscles can also cause low back pain. And so today I want to go over just, where the hamstring is compared to where the hip flexor is, where their attachment sites are, and how they can affect you. So we'll start with the hamstrings first, and your hamstrings basically just sit behind your leg. So you have the front of your leg, which are your quad muscles, and then behind it, the muscles that flex your knee or bend your knee are called your hamstrings. And there's three muscles back there, and they start, the origin of them is kind of right where you sit, your butt bones, where you sit down. Those are where they originate, and they go down and they go and they cross over the back of the knee in different areas, and they attach so that they have a point that they can pull on to bend your knee. Well, a lot of times, for instance, people that have really tight hamstrings are people that sit a lot throughout the day. And truck drivers are usually the ones that I see with very, very tight hamstrings because they're sitting constantly. Like, they're not even getting up and down. They're driving for long periods of time. So they have very tight hamstrings. So what happens is the attachment site that it's on, that butt bone, when it's tight, it's pulling down on that and causing your pelvis to rotate, and it rotates backwards because it's pulling down on that area of where it's attached to your butt. It pulls it backwards, and it causes that your curvature of your spine, your normal curve is like this. Okay, it's called a lordosis. And what happens is if it's pulling it this way, it's kind of straightening that lordosis out, and sometimes that can cause the back to have pain just because the vertebrae aren't sitting correctly. So a lot of times I'll work on different dynamic stretching with them just to try and loosen those up because they're sitting throughout the day most of the time. So that's one thing that can cause you to have some low back pain. So if you have tight hamstrings and you have some back pain, that might be something that you want to start trying to loosen up, dynamically, not just passively stretching it, not just bending over, but different activities to try and loosen those muscles up along with stretching it. Deadlifts are a great one to do for that specific stretch dynamically. Another muscle that can become very tight is your hip flexor, and that's just the muscle that flexes the hip. It brings the hip up. It brings your knee towards your chest when you walk, when you run, when you're going up steps, things like that. And also the attachment site is on your femur, and it also has an attachment site, which is your thigh bone, but it also has an attachment site on your lumbar spine, on that low back. It kind of goes up through your gut area, attaches on that lower lumbar spine. So like I said, your pelvis sits normally like this. Well, if it's tight and it's pulling on the front area here, it's going to rotate you forwards, and it's going to cause you to have more of that lordosis curve. And that can also throw your spine off a little bit and be in a disadvantage, a biomechanical disadvantage, and cause you some pain in that sense. And also, those are, as someone says, I got tight hip flexors, I need to stretch them. That's also another good muscle to stretch if you're experiencing some low back pain. So those are some simple tips. I'm not saying that's why you have low back pain, but those are reasons why sometimes people can have low back pain just from having tight muscles and not even from an injury. So I hope that helped this week, guys. If you have any questions, feel free to contact me. Otherwise, have a great week. Thanks a lot.